Squiz Kids!
It's your daily news fix. Fun, free, fresh.
Hello there and welcome to a very special pre-election Squiz Kids Q+A, part of our ongoing series of interviews with people in the news where you, the kids of Australia, get to ask the questions. I'm Bryce Corbett. Now, unless you've been living under a rock, you'd know there's a federal election this Saturday, where the people of Australia head to the polls and choose their next Prime Minister. We asked you, our faithful Squiz Kids listeners, to send in any questions you have for the two men battling it out for the nation's top job. And today, we're delighted to welcome to the Squiz Kids Q+A hot seat, Australia's 30th Prime Minister, Scott Morrison. Prime Minister, welcome to Squiz Kids.
Great to be back.
Now, we're only days away from the election, PM. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. I'm here with Jenny and we're up moving around, talking to people around the country about the bright future that's there for us. We've just got to get on and make sure that we can realise that for everybody so Australia can go past these really difficult years that we've had with the pandemic. We're coming out of all that and we're coming into a new period and I'm really looking forward to leading Australia through that.
Excellent. Now, PM, here at Squiz Kids, we live by the motto that it's a kid's world too. And with that in mind, we asked Squiz Kids what questions they'd like to ask the Prime Minister as he goes into an election. We had hundreds of responses and have chosen 10 of the best. Are you ready to take the Squiz Kids hot seat and be grilled by the kids of Australia?
That'd be great.
All right, our first question comes from Lucy, who's from Vermont in Melbourne.
Hi, my name is Lucy. I am 6 years old and I live in Vermont in Victoria. My question is, what's your favourite part about being a Prime Minister?
My favourite part is how many wonderful people I get to meet, and I particularly like it when the young people come to see us, whether it's down in Canberra or I'm out visiting them in their schools or other places they are, out on the sports field. Every time I get to spend time with young people and particularly young kids, it just reminds me of, yes, the responsibilities that we have to make a stronger and brighter future for them, but it also just fills me with optimism because young people so often, they're just so full of energy and always excited about what's ahead.
Now a question from 10-year-old Caitlin in Greystanes.
Hi, my name is Caitlin. I am 9 years old and I live in Greystanes in New South Wales. My question is, what is the most important quality for a Prime Minister to have?
Well, I must tell you, particularly over these really difficult times, strength has been so important. Strength to ensure that we can always stand up for what Australia needs, strength to ensure we can make the right decisions to help Australia be able to come through what have been such difficult times. Not all the decisions you make can be popular and it's important to get them as right as you possibly can on every occasion. And so that strength to stand up to those who would seek to make things harder for Australia, well, that's very important in a Prime Minister. And that's something that I've always tried to bring to the job. But in addition to the strength, it's important that there's understanding. You've got to understand the problems you're seeking to solve. You've got to understand the things that people are feeling around the country, so you can ensure that you take people with you to get your policies and everything you're trying to achieve right. So I'd say two things actually: strength and understanding.
Moving now to the New South Wales Southern Highlands, where Noah from Exeter has a question.
Hi, my name is Noah. I'm 10 years old and I live in Exeter in New South Wales. My question is, what was your dream when you were a kid and did you think you would ever be Prime Minister?
Well, I never thought I would be Prime Minister, that's for sure. Your life takes many different journeys, and I'm sure that's the same for the kids who are listening on, Noah in particular, who's asked the question, but also mums and dads who may be listening as well. But I know what the most exciting thing is in your life is it's being able to be a parent. I love the fact that Jenny and I have been able to have a family and to raise our family. This is the greatest joy of our life. And that's something that I've always wanted. I grew up in a very loving family. I was very fortunate. And so that's something that I always hope for as well. And we're really pleased to be able to be doing that. But as a Prime Minister, now that I'm in the job, it is very much about trying to ensure that more and more Australian families can have a loving environment, can be supported, that home is a safe place for everyone, and that kids get the best start in life at school, but more broadly in the family environment and the communities that they're growing up in.
Now, here's a good question from Josh, who's from the same school in the Southern Highlands.
My name is Josh. I'm 11 years old and I live in Exeter, New South Wales. My question is, was anyone in your family not happy when you got Prime Minister?
No, I think everyone was a bit surprised. That's certainly the case, because it happened all very suddenly. But as a family, we've always just adjusted to things that has happened in the course of our lives. We stick closely together, and I draw a lot of strength from my family. They give me tremendous support, and particularly Jenny, but also Abby and Lily and my mother, and sadly lost my father a few years ago. But all my family and friends, they're a tremendous support to me in the job that I do, and they help me get through each day and make sure I stay focused on the things that are important to the country. But at the same time, family is the centre of my life, and I'm so grateful to them.
Nice. Now Josh's classmate Marco has what I think is quite a big question.
My name is Marco. I am 10 years old and I live in Exeter in New South Wales. My question is, what is one thing you would want to change about the world?
I'd really like people to be kinder to each other. That's the most important thing, I think. When we see what happens on social media, this really worries me. And for some of the younger kids who may be listening to this, hopefully they're not on social media at this point. But I do know for older kids and teenagers and for parents as well, what happens in social media can be very, very damaging to people. And we need to be very careful. And the thing that really upsets me about is people can be so cruel and they can be so unkind. And it's important that we always understand that we should be trying to treat others as we would have ourselves treated. I think that's a very important principle. So I think people just being a bit kinder to each other would be great.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let's go to Queensland now, where Willow has a great question.
Hi, my name is Willow and I am 11 years old. I live on the Gold Coast in Queensland. My question is, did you ever get into trouble at school?
Oh, yes. Yes, I did. I did my fair share of detention. Many years ago, they used to give you the cane, and I got that once or twice as well. I could be a bit disruptive when I was a kid, but, I was spirited. That's what my mother would say.
I think you've just given every disruptive child in Australia an excuse to be disruptive in class today. Thanks, PM. The teachers will love you for that.
Listen to your parents, listen to your teachers.
Now, here's a question that I think shows a lot of empathy and insight. It comes from 10-year-old Grace.
Hi, my name is Grace. I'm 10 years old and I live in Exeter, New South Wales. My question is it harder to make friends once you're a Prime Minister?
Well, I have so many wonderful friends. And I've met and made some great friends during the time I've been Prime Minister, because I get to meet so many different people all around the country. And I've met many of them at some of the most difficult times of their lives. And to be able to be a comfort and support to them with Jenny has been a great blessing for us. And we've maintained and built some really lovely friendships with people. And I'm very appreciative for that. As Prime Minister, you meet people in all walks of life, in all circumstances, after they've achieved great things, after they've suffered terrible losses. And you get a sense really of the whole country because of the privilege and responsibility that you have to connect with all Australians. So yes, we have made some very good friends, and I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah. A question now from Felix, who's from Maruka in Brisbane.
Hi, my name is Felix and I am 8 years old from Brisbane. My question is, will you be sad if you lose the election?
Well, the thing about elections is Australians make their choice. And that's why Australia is such a great country. And I think that's fantastic. In many other countries around the world, people will know right now, over on the other side of the world, there's a terrible war going on. A terrible war going on. And we live in a country where that isn't happening. We live in a country where governments are elected by the people that they govern. And this is one of the great things about Australia. And so we all submit ourselves to that. Those of us, we all love Australia, and when you love Australia, you always respect the decisions of the Australian people. And that's why this election is really important. It's important that we have one in the first place. And it's always important that it's done properly and that people think carefully about the decision they're going to make and the impact it's going to have on the future. And that's something that I've always respected and loved about our country.
Okay, you're doing very well in the hot seat, PM. Second last question now, it's a two-parter from Tom in New South Wales, who clearly has a sense of humour.
My name is Tom. I'm 10 years old and I am from Moscow, New South Wales. My question for you is, do you have any regrets as a Prime Minister? If yes, what is it? Do your kids cringe every time you pull out the ukulele?
Well, on the ukulele, they probably do a bit, but they also don't mind it as well.
That's what they tell you.
Yeah, possibly. But I do get a little while back when I had a bit more time, I was playing it with my daughter who was teaching herself the guitar. So these are just fun things you do as a family. It's important as a family that you do things together. And, you know, it's every dad's responsibility to sometimes embarrass their kids. Those sort of funny little institutions you have as a family. One of the other things we like to do is I like to cook curries for them on a Saturday night. A Friday night we cook pizzas together when I'm at home, and these sorts of things are really important. But in terms of the job, you know, it's a very hard job. And it's a very demanding job, and it particularly has been during the course of the COVID pandemic and the many other things Australia's had to face, whether it be bushfires or floods or the drought that was going on for many years when I first became Prime Minister. And, you know, we've been through so many other disasters in recent years. We can't forget that for many, many years, people living in rural and regional Australia were dealing with terrible, terrible drought. And their circumstances have improved since then. But in all of that, you can't get everything right in this job. But the most important thing you do is if you don't get something right, if something doesn't go to plan, and this is as true for boys and girls listening on and parents too, that when you don't get it right, you've just got to get back in there, you've got to try and fix it as best as you can, and you've got to keep moving forward. You can't dwell on those things too much. You learn from them every single time. You've got to learn from your mistakes. But you've also got to make sure that you don't let that hold you back and that you get on with the job that you've got to do, fix what you need to fix, and keep moving forward.
Okay, last question, PM, which I think could be the most important one you've faced all campaign, and it comes from Jade on the Gold Coast.
My name is Jade. I'm 11 years old and I live on the Gold Coast in Queensland. My question is, what is your favourite Australian treat? Meat pie, lamington or Vegemite?
Vegemite. I like to have my Vegemite on toast. I always have since I was a kid. So Vegemite for me.
There you go. You heard it here first, Squiz Kids. Well, PM, you've got an election to fight. We should let you get back to it. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat to Squiz Kids.
Well, thank you, and thanks to all the kids who put in their questions. They were really great questions, and, you know, you're playing your role as we go to this election. You may not be able to vote yet, but they're great questions, and well done.
Now, before we go, we should remind everyone that we also gathered an excellent bunch of questions from Aussie kids for Opposition Leader Anthony Albanese, and we've invited him to come on the podcast and answer them, and are hoping he'll find time in his busy schedule to do so before Saturday. And for anyone new to Squiz Kids, we're a daily news podcast made just for kids. Fun, free, fresh. Available wherever you get your podcasts or via squizkids.com.au. Now, PM, before we let you go, it's Squiz Kids tradition to get our special guests to do the Squiz Kids sign-off. Will you please do the honours?
Now get out there and have a most excellent day.
Over and out.